This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by Halon Tax. As a new business owner and first-time tax filer, I needed a peace of mind knowing that my S-Corp return was done correctly. I signed up for Halon Tax, connected to my QuickBooks Online, filled out about 4 fields in a wizard, clarified 2 small items with the Halon Tax team. A few days later, I got a text telling me my return was finished. I launched Halon Tax and e-signed my return. The whole end-to-end process was painless and, frankly, kind of amazing. Now, Halon Tax is working with bookkeepers and accountants like yourself to offer the same amazing experience to your small business clients. They're even offering a 1-year free trial to all your clients. This even includes your own dedicated tax CPA. To learn more about this exciting offer from Halon Tax, head over to cloudaccountingpodcast.com/Halon Tax. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.com/HALONTAX. And oh yeah, Halon Tax works great with Xero and Wave too. Welcome to the Cloud Accounting Podcast. I'm your host, David Leary.
Hi, I'm Rich Preece from Intuit.
Rich, you're finally here on the podcast. Thank you. You might be the first Intuit person besides me when I used to work at Intuit that's been on the podcast.
Oh, well, I am thrilled to be here. Hope to get invited back. So you'll be the judge of that, David.
Right. For those of you who don't know who you are already, any of our listeners that maybe we just gained new ones this week or maybe gained some next week, who are you?
Yeah, so 17-year veteran at Intuit. And so there's a number of things I've done, but currently I lead the US business for QuickBooks. And then prior to that, I've led our international business. I've led our accountant segment. So I've definitely had a number of roles here at Intuit.
I think the big reason you're here is QuickBooks Live. And I think it's arguably one of the biggest things to hit our industry in 10 years, possibly. And it's really recent. You just started testing this publicly, like in February. Can you kind of roll back what the last 4 months have been like? Because it's been fast.
Yeah, it has been fast. And we agree with you. We think this is going to be significant. And we think this both helps small businesses and the accounting profession as well. But just to answer your question specifically, so about 6 months ago, we started to do some testing on our website. And there was a couple of things we were trying to test. First of all, just the general appetite for essentially a sort of bookkeeping service where we're connecting QuickBooks customers to accounting professionals, bookkeepers who will help them with simple setup of QuickBooks and then simple ongoing bookkeeping. And the way that we tested that was we tested a number of different price points on the website. So we tested $200, $400, $600. And what we were looking to do is to see what the appetite and interest was for the concept, generally speaking, and then the price points. So that was the first thing. Now, once we had learned those lessons, we very quickly actually brought in 9 ProAdvisors. We put them in our office in Boise, in Idaho, where we have our T-Sheets business. And then we actually let 200 folks sign up, or these are QuickBooks customers, sign up for QuickBooks Live, sort of commit to paying that price point. And then what we needed to learn was obviously what kind of questions do they have? Obviously, basic bookkeeping means one thing to one person, another to a different person. And so through those 9 ProAdvisors, we learned the questions, we learned how much time does it take to answer the questions. And we were really just trying to sort of fine tune the service before we sort of put it out there for all of our QuickBooks customers, which we did just a couple of weeks ago.
It's funny when you say we did a quick test or we quickly did this. I was at Intuit for a long time.
You were.
And quick would be like 3 years.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's an amazing, like within weeks after doing the test, you're like, we wrapped up with 9 people. It's amazing the pace and the quickness that this is being rolled out.
Yeah. Well, and obviously this is something where we think it's transformational as well. We think it actually can hugely help small businesses. The premise that we had was inside of our ecosystem, as a stat that we share a lot is 58% of all of our QuickBooks customers are connected to an accounting professional. Now, that, of course, means that 42% are not. And so, the premise of this is how can we get those 42% the help that they need? Because many small businesses need help. And so, we went on that journey and we realized we have to move quickly for a couple of reasons. One is the technology is already there. 2 is that, as we know, half of all small businesses go out of business every 5 years. And so this is sort of important for us to do more to connect accounting professionals with small businesses, because we know actually that both are more successful when we can do that. So we just realized, we don't have years. We have to do this thing in months. And for full disclosure, David, we're still learning as we go here. I mean, we've gone live, as I mentioned, just about 2 weeks ago, and we're very confident in what we have. We started with a single price point, which is $400. We obviously are still learning. We will likely kind of break out additional products as well. And we're doing that with the accounting community. We're sort of learning as we go. And so we'll continue to test and deploy.
You talk about that 40% that still don't have a bookkeeper.
Yep.
Right? They're not connected. And Enrico from BotKeeper today, and we're at Scaling New Heights conference. I forgot to mention that for those of you that are listening. And Enrico kind of had everybody do an informal survey of how many people had to turn away a client in the last 6 months. And I would say 65% of the room raised their hand, if not 80% of the room, turned clients away. And like those people have no place to go.
Yeah.
They're being sent away.
Yeah. It's funny. I was in the room. I saw the same thing. And I saw, to your point, it was well over half of the room. And then, he asked how many of you have turned away clients in the last week? And it seemed as if 25% of the room held their hand up then as well. I think this is the point. This is why we actually think a service like this is so important. The fundamental point is that small business growth continues to be explosive. That speaker that you referenced showed some stats about just the escalation of small business growth. As we know, the number of accounting firms is relatively flat. And so there isn't really a competition problem here. Accountants can't service all of those small businesses who are looking for help. And so again, that's why we actually think having a platform, which is a sort of on-demand platform. So just to be clear, for those folks that don't know what QuickBooks Live is, the very simple concept is that we have obviously a very substantial number of small businesses that come to us on a daily, weekly, monthly basis to sign up for QuickBooks Online. In each of those cases, many of those folks need a question answered, need a little bit of help, but they're reluctant to go to our Find a ProAdvisor platform because they actually say they are not ready for a help from a fully fledged accounting professional bookkeeper. Now, interestingly, the help that they need is help getting started with QuickBooks. It's bank reconciliation. They start to describe basic bookkeeping while at the same time saying they're not ready for an accountant. And so it's through that lens and our research that they actually said to us, we want you QuickBooks to help us. And then very simply, that was where the concept was born of, well, why don't we build a platform where for those certified ProAdvisors and other accounting professionals who actually are looking to connect with these small businesses who need help, they can, in an on-demand fashion, participate on a platform. They can help with that simple setup. They can help with that simple ongoing bookkeeping. And then we're doing more, obviously, to connect those small businesses with those accounting professionals. And then just the last thing I'll say, because this is a question we get a lot, is, it's important through that lens that you can understand why the folks who participate will be presented as, hey, I'm Rich, I'm from QuickBooks, how can I help you today? Versus I'm Rich, I have my own CPA practice. Because that small business, when they first signed up, actually said they're not ready for an accounting professional, which is why they're looking for QuickBooks to help. But we're going to connect them with the ProAdvisors who can help them.
Yeah, unless they don't know what they want yet.
That's correct. Exactly. And we believe it will obviously expand the number of small businesses out there who really are looking for that help from those accounting professionals, because they will very quickly learn the value of that expert assistance.
So before I get to more details about QuickBooks Live, Blake and I totally both believe that the amazing success TurboTax Live has had it's 3 years old now.
It's 2 years. Yeah, this was our second year.
And arguably, I think from the conference calls is TurboTax Live is the most popular version of TurboTax in 30 years almost, right? TurboTax is almost 25, 30 years old, right? Can you speak to the success of that and how it's driving some of the decision-making with QuickBooks Live?
Yeah, absolutely. So, just again, for those folks who may not be quite as familiar, just very briefly. So a couple of 2 years ago, we introduced again what we call TurboTax Live. And very specifically, we have almost 40 million people that use TurboTax every year. So obviously a lot of folks in the US use TurboTax to do their taxes, but a number of them get to a part of the experience in TurboTax where they have sort of a moment of self-doubt. They have a question that they can't answer. And then their only alternative is to sort of go to an accounting professional or perhaps a tax store, which isn't something they wanted to do. This is folks who traditionally have simple returns. They wanted to do it themselves in TurboTax. And so through that same learning, we said, well, boy, what if we had a platform where at that moment in time, we could have sort of built out a number of CPAs and EAs on that platform where they actually could be the help who are answering the questions. And then we would pay those CPAs and EAs. And obviously the folks who are using the service on TurboTax would pay us an incremental fee. Now, in the first year, it was extremely successful. We haven't announced the numbers, but we have said it was extremely successful. In the second year, what we have said on our recent earnings call was that actually we had 3 times the number of customers in the second year use it. We've also shared that just from a scale standpoint, it's one of the fastest growing businesses we've seen inside of Intuit. So that obviously gives an indication of really the need that this has addressed. And so, we are very bullish on this notion of, again, connecting our customers to expert help at the time that they need it, whether it's in TurboTax or QuickBooks. And we think that there is a future where in the past, our solutions have been basically you're doing it on your own.
Right.
Yeah. The alternative has been do it for me. And this is a sort of hybrid do it with me solution, which again is borne out over 2 years now in TurboTax. And we're just 2 weeks in QuickBooks Live, but we think we'll see the same type of dynamics.
Yeah, because I guess the paradigm is before I'd be doing my tax with TurboTax, or I wouldn't do them and I would go to a H&R Block or I'd go to a tax shop to get those done. But now I can have a little confidence to do it myself. And then I'm sitting on my couch, I bring up TurboTax Live, I talk to Claudel, I get my help, and I'm done. I just get that peace of mind. I just don't have to get my card. So it's not really much different. I just don't have to drive. I get it instantaneously.
Well, that's correct. And also you're going to pay quite a lot less as well. So, if you're going to a tax store and on average perhaps paying $300, with TurboTax, you may be paying sort of $60 for one of the paid offerings in TurboTax. It's about another $80 to add TurboTax Live. And so obviously, if you put that together, you're out the door for, say, $140. But most importantly, you're filing your return with absolute confidence. You got the help that you needed from, a qualified expert during that experience.
Many times you just have like one little thing you're not sure about. You just need a little question. Exactly.
And in TurboTax Live, that expert also reviews your return before it's filed as well. So that's the other benefit. And then the other thing I'd say, David, and I've sort of mentioned this, but only because it's the number one question I get all the time is, again, I cannot overiterate. These are existing either tax professionals, if it's TurboTax Live, or QuickBooks ProAdvisors, if it's QuickBooks Live, who are actually the folks on the other end helping the customers. This is not somebody new. This is simply us trying to connect the accounting industry's professionals that we've always partnered with more small businesses, and in TurboTax's case, with more tax customers.
This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by LivePlan. Did you know that millions of small businesses use LivePlan products to start their business? Did you know that these small businesses prefer a cloud-based accounting solution 2 times more versus a desktop solution? Did you know that 89% of these small business owners prefer virtual advisory services? Did you know that the number one thing they want from an expert advisor is strategic planning and review? This is even more than general ledger accounting and bookkeeping services. Did you know that LivePlan has an expert advisory directory that you can join to gain access to these millions of small businesses? To learn more about becoming a LivePlan expert advisor, head over to cloudaccountingpodcast.com/LivePlan. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.com/LIVEPLAN. And be sure to check out the LivePlan method to learn how to grow and scale your advisory business. A few weeks back, I think I heard you on an interview, and you're talking about how Intuit's going to own the relationship with the customer.
Yes.
And is that driven because that's what the customers want? Is that just a decision? Because that's a little different than the Find a ProAdvisor site where you're playing matchmaker and then getting out of the relationship.
Yeah, that's correct. And again, I'm glad you brought this up because this is another sort of hot topic and a lot of questions we get. So you actually mentioned it. You're absolutely right. It is specifically because, again, as we sort of learned what these customers are looking for, they were very, very clear with us time and again that they are not ready for an accounting professional. They went as far many times to say that I wouldn't even know what questions to ask an accounting professional. These are often small businesses that are in their infancy, and they believe that one day they might need an accounting professional, but not today. And then when we said to them, well, then who do you want help from? They said, I want help from you guys. I want help from QuickBooks. I came to you as a brand. And so that's the help I'm looking for. Now, that is why we've been so clear with accountants, and we have tried to, to be really concise when saying, for those folks who wish to participate as a bookkeeping or accounting professional on QuickBooks Live, it's important that coming in, they realize this is an opportunity to gain revenue because they will be positioning themselves as a QuickBooks bookkeeper. If they're looking to gain clients, as you mentioned, we have the Find a ProAdvisor platform, which is, last year alone, over 1 million small businesses went to that platform looking for an accounting professional. So that is a wonderful way to gain clients. QuickBooks Live is a wonderful way to generate incremental revenue, but we don't want to confuse the two.
So do you envision one day where there's a transition where somebody maybe outgrows QuickBooks Live and needs to transition over?
Yeah, I think that's entirely possible. And actually, just as a quick proof point of that, in the 2 weeks we have been live with QuickBooks Live, when somebody comes to us and what they're really looking for is something more than basic bookkeeping, we actually very deliberately say this service isn't built for you, and we send them to the Find a ProAdvisor platform. And so we're already doing that on a daily basis. And so to your point, in the future, I suspect people will start with basic bookkeeping and sort of outgrow the service, and that's absolutely fine too. And in the interim, we are specifically putting more people into the Find a ProAdvisor platform because of this.
I think in the May blog post, like ramping up with staff, because right now you said first it was 9 people in Boise.
Correct.
And now you plan on using existing TurboTax Live people to staff QuickBooks Live. And I think the blog post said you're going to scale up to 500 bookkeepers in the next 9 months or so.
Well, and that's obviously very much of an estimate at this point. What I can tell you, because clearly when you first launch something, you don't quite know what the demand is on one side and the supply on the other. And the interesting thing about a two-sided network is you have to get both right at the same time. And so what we have said is, and so it's a slightly different than your positioning on this, but what we said is that we started out with about 2,000 I say we started out in the second year, about 2,000 TurboTax folks working on TurboTax Live. So these are CPAs, these are EAs. We actually asked those folks, which of you are multi-service, which provide bookkeeping as well, and who would be interested in participating in QuickBooks Live. Now, of the group who A, qualified and B, were interested, there was about 500.
Okay, so you have a pool of 500
correct.
that are waiting and ready to match the demand as it comes in.
That is correct. And obviously, as we go through that pool, and of course, some of them I'm sure will drop out because the vast majority also have their own practice. And so they're doing this kind of incremental to their own practice. And so as we sort of work our way through those folks, and just to be clear, of course, they've gone through the background training, they've gone through the certification. By the way, these have to be certified ProAdvisors.
And they get the kit.
We've sent them a laptop. Yeah, absolutely. We send them a laptop. We send them a headset. We send them a screen that sits behind them because this is video conferencing. So obviously it makes sense to start with that group. And the point we were making in the blog is there's up to 500 in that group. And we were just trying to sort of answer the question we were getting from many ProAdvisors, which is why haven't you contacted me yet? And we were just sort of trying to say, hey, sit steady. We promise we will. And we will do so just after we've gone through this first group, which are the TurboTax Live pros.
Got it. So they're just queued up and waiting for those clients. Because I think the way we read it in the blog post, and maybe it just didn't come out right in text, was like, you guys have planned at 500, which means you're planning on having 10,000 QBO Live customers, which is all of a sudden puts you at like the 60th biggest accounting firm, bookkeeping firm. It's like the numbers add up really, really fast. So do you think in general, like there's recent news, H&R Block just acquired Wave, like that just happened last week. There's lots of accounting firms with engineers that are getting VC startup money. Is Intuit driving this train or boat, whatever you want to call it? Or is Intuit just riding a wave that's going to happen naturally? This is coming no matter what.
Yeah. What I would say, it's actually customer demand and optionality that's driving the train. I mean, I genuinely believe that. The success of TurboTax Live obviously speaks to this is something that people want. I think increasingly people are willing to interface with an expert in a sort of virtual way. And by virtual, I include video conferencing in that. I just mean they're not getting in their car. They're not necessarily driving. I also think on the other side of the platform, accounting professionals are doing the same thing that the medical professionals have done for the last 3 or 4 years, which is they are willing to offer their services in a different way, which is convenient to their customers or their clients. So personally, I actually think this is sort of demand led. And then obviously technology and AI sits underneath and makes it far easier than it has before. And I think Intuit is obviously participating in this opportunity. To your point, I think many other competitors are. I, like you, found the Block and the Wave acquisition interesting. They didn't say anything on the call. I listened to the call directly connecting the two, but obviously it will be interesting over the time to see if those two things are connected to a sort of virtual expert platform.
Well, it feels like customers want one-stop shop. They want both books and tax. People kind of want that. The customers want that. I know accountants and bookkeepers like, I'm only going to do bookkeeping or I'm only going to do tax. But I think customers kind of want that. And TurboTax Live is a proof of that. QuickBooks Live and even the market reaction from H&R Block and Wave. Like that could be the same thing. Customers want that combined service.
I think they want the combined service, and I think they want convenience. And I think those two things together are really driving the industry. And then the technology, as we mentioned, is sort of sits underneath this. So, I really think now is the time when there will be a significant shift, to your earlier point. Like, this is arguably transformational in the industry.
So just, I know you've said some people initially reacted negatively. We weren't sure what QuickBooks Live is. There's been a lot of, like, I guess the QBO certification tests are harder now. There's been price increases. People's reactions, like, for the first time I've seen in a long time, have been a little bit on the negative side to QuickBooks and things like that. How do you feel that's affecting things? Like, is it something you guys are listening to, the team's reacting to? Some of that negative, there's negativity out there, a little bit.
Yeah. No, well, first of all, I think that's fair, David. So I think, you know, what you've been hearing, I've been hearing some of the same things. And it basically falls into the bucket of, you know, people understand the concept of live and they're excited to participate. So, you know, we actually have, you know, a significant list of people who have already sent us their information and said, hey, I'm not going to wait for you. Here's my information. Please add me to the list. To your point, though, it's very different. And it comes on the back of some other changes, you know, again, a recent price increase of the product, etc. So I think there's real anxiety out there as well, where, you know, there are bookkeepers who say, boy, is this going to disrupt me? You know, is this going to take my clients away? You know, we genuinely think it will not. And we genuinely think it will actually expand the opportunity for them to service more clients. But I think the approach we're taking is we're trying to be patient and we're trying to communicate and then communicate again and then communicate again, because we recognize, you know, people have an emotional reaction to this. It's their business. When you're a bookkeeper, you fear something changing your business. You fear losing clients. And so we're just trying to patiently explain, we actually don't think that will happen. It's not why we're doing this. Again, these are the small businesses who weren't looking for an accounting professional or bookkeeper, and we're trying to connect them to you. And then once people understand that concept, we actually find that that sort of anxiety and negativity typically changes to a far more positive response.
No, that makes sense. It's interesting because I look at a lot of the Facebook groups that are out there and you see these posts. There's a whole group of bookkeepers and accountants that they're just posting things like, how do I get clients? But they don't want to do any of the work. They don't want to market their firm. They don't want to. And I look at QuickBooks Live as like, here's a place, these people that just want to pop in and do some bookkeeping work and not actually run a bookkeeping firm. Like, QuickBooks Live is like the perfect fit for these people. And there's a lot of people out there like that, I think, bookkeepers.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, essentially, you know, you've got no marketing cost. You've got no travel time going back and forth to a client. Obviously, you've got no of the sort of difficulties of chasing down billing. This is literally...
So you guys are going to handle the billing.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So we charge the customer, you know, to that current point of $400. And then we pay the accounting professional by the hour on the platform. Now, just to be specific, we're deliberately not paying them for number of clients that they help. We're not looking for them to sort of rush through helping clients, which would then, of course, be a poor experience for the QuickBooks Online customer, which is why we're paying the bookkeeper or the accounting professional by the hour. But to your point, it is literally an on-demand service. The vast majority of those accounting professionals and bookkeepers who are participating today, particularly on the TurboTax side, as we mentioned, have their own firm. And they're doing this incrementally to that firm where they have extra capacity. And so again, and I should also add that 95% of the accountants participating on TurboTax Live in the first year signed up for the second year. And so obviously that's an indication that it's working for them, but it truly is that sort of truly flexible on demand opportunity to make more money without any of the marketing or billing or other components of, you know, the traditional sort of client relationship.
Because essentially you have, other than your time, you have no expense.
Correct. Yeah, there's really no, I mean, there's none that I can think of at all.
An internet connection, maybe, and that's it.
That is literally, I mean, as we mentioned earlier, we literally ship you a laptop, we ship you a headset, we ship you the screen that sits behind you, because again, you are on video, so the client can see you. Now, you can't see the client, because one of the interesting things we learned when we were testing this is oftentimes that client is sat at home, you know, now whether they feel as if their home is messy, whether they're sat there in their pajamas, they want to see the person they're working with because it actually makes them feel as if it's a real human being. It's somebody that they kind of, you know, visualize, but they don't want that person seeing them for the reasons I mentioned.
And is that just off by default, or can a small business owner opt in to have their own video on?
Well, it's actually a great question. It's off by default, but something we can obviously consider in the future is that's an interesting idea. I mean, should we learn that there are some people that do want that tier one video?
In this.
Yeah,
face to face.
Exactly. But, you know, so far in our learning journey, the vast majority have said, I want to see them, but I don't want them to see me. So that's why we built it that way.
This episode of the Cloud Accounting Podcast is sponsored by TOA Global. As you know, most firms struggle with attracting, managing, and retaining staff. And finding staff is getting tougher every day. This is where TOA Global can help. TOA Global is the most professional outsourcing partner to help you build and manage a global accounting team. By building a global team, you'll be able to take away the time-consuming process-oriented work from your local team while building a cost-effective team offshore. As people experts, TOA Global can help you select and develop your best team members easily using their expert ecosystem of people, security, technology, and professional development tools. To learn how to build your world-class team today, head over to cloudaccountingpodcast.com/TOA Global. That is cloudaccountingpodcast.com/TOAGLOBAL.
I must say the communications on QuickBooks Live has gotten so much better since February. Blake and I joke about this. Like, we don't have to do any research. You guys just put out a nice blog post every month now.
Well, thank you.
And just get to read it that way. So how do you find the blog post? Where's it at? How do people get to that? Other than the show notes for the podcast.
Yeah.
It's is it just QuickBooks?
It's firmofthefuture.com. And so, for anybody looking either and first of all, thank you for the compliment. We appreciate it. It's our communications team. It isn't me. So I give all credit there. But firmofthefuture.com. We have a blog there where we're regularly updating the latest information on QuickBooks Live. But also there's a link there where you can sign up. And so again, for anyone listening to this that says, hey, I'd be interested in participating and being one of those kind of bookkeepers or accountants, you do have to be a certified ProAdvisor. Again, we are trying here to work with the folks that have always worked so closely with us and help us. But you can go to firmofthefuture.com. You click on the link to sign up. It's super simple. And then once we have your information, we will reach out to you in the coming months as we're looking to bring on that next wave of accountants and bookkeepers onto the platform.
And then before I let you go, is there any nugget or something about QuickBooks Live that we don't know that you could just drop as a bonus just for the Cloud Accounting podcast listeners?
It's funny. I would love to. It's actually ironic to your previous point. When we first put this out there, we probably under communicated. And that was partly what drove some of the anxiety. And so what we've been doing in the last 2 or 3 months is trying to over communicate. So I'm actually proud to say there is no nugget. There's no nugget because we're trying to get in front of all comms. So, but if there ever is, I'll be happy to come back on the show and talk to you about it, David.
Perfect. And so if people want to get a hold of you, Rich, what's the best way?
Well, if they want to get a hold of me, they can absolutely email me anytime at rich_preece@intuit.com. And again, the team and I would love to hear feedback. We would love to hear comments. We're building this. We're learning as we go. And so, would love any feedback.
Great. Perfect. Thanks for coming on the Cloud Accounting Podcast, Rich. And I'm David Leary. You can follow me on Twitter @David Leary. And that's a wrap.
Awesome. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Rich. Bye-bye, everybody.